The Wolf and Bull podcast was prepared, conducted, and hosted by the Wolf and Bull team in their personal capacity. This podcast is for expressive listening entertainment, and any views, ideas, or opinions may or may not extend past the boundaries of this podcast. Conversations or specific comments on behalf of the hosts and guests are for entertainment purposes only. Due to language and potentially offensive topics, listener discretion is advised.
I haven't even looked up a picture of a pangolin. Every time I hear that word, I think of a penguin.
I was going to say, it's just imagine a penguin.
Yeah, they're very interesting
It's
looking.
not a penguin.
A pangolin. What, do they eat bats? Is that the whole deal?
No, it's the scaly looking fucker. That's literally what it looks like. It is a scaly looking
know.
If you look in the biodiversity magazine, you'll see this scaly looking fucker that looks like a pangolin.
Scientific.
It looks like an armadillo.
Name. Yeah, that's what it is, basically. Kind of.
So armadillos eat bats?
No.
Where are armadillos located?
What do pandas eat? Do pandas?
Bamboo.
When they get really pissed off, though.
Pandas shouldn't exist. And I've heard a lot of arguments for this.
Well, they eat bamboo, and bamboo is supposed to be very good for you.
Have you ever watched...
But they get mad, and they eat other things.
Have you
ever
I
know
watched,
they eat dumplings, because I saw the Disney movie.
Have you ever watched... Have you ever watched a panda fall from a tree?
Yeah, last time I was over in China, I watched
We can't do this. No, he doesn't
San
know what
Diego
we're talking
Zoo.
about. Yeah, all the time. There's literally footage of just pandas throwing themselves to their death, and then they live, and...
Well, they bounce.
He's seen the video
tough.
of the panda, baby panda sneezing.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
That's a famous...
Circa 2007.
Yeah.
Cute panda
Yeah, it's
sneezing.
like a YouTube video.
Yeah,
back when YouTube wasn't
bamboo
really YouTube
shoots
yet.
come flying out of their nostrils.
No, it's the first YouTube video. Like,
I don't
very
think it's
first
the
one?
first,
It's the
but
second
it's
one.
one of the most famous.
You know, that would be interesting. Does anybody know what the first YouTube video really was?
yes.
I'm sure
really?
you can
Yeah.
trace it back, and I'm sure it's something super
Because I'm of
enlightening.
the age where everybody remembers. Do you remember the first MTV video?
Video killed the radio
You got it. There you go.
star.
Now I'm deaf in both of my ears.
Sorry.
But what killed the radio was the YouTube, right? The video.
The
Well-
YouTube?
The
The good old YouTube.
The
Yeah.
YouTube,
You could
which
go on
I
YouTube
struggled to.
and
I remember
watch.
when I was first looking to find it on the internet back in the old dial-up days. That was terrible, wasn't it?
I was
That
gonna
was
try
almost like
and
your English
make a-
accent there, Wolfie.
Yeah, well.
So anyway,
I was
but
going to help you out with that. And
could
then
you go for it? Let me hear it.
Oh,
let
no.
me hear it, Bale.
I'm trying to think of the dial-up town that...
Yeah,
Oh my
let's-
God, that is like worse than me by far.
I know, that's why I
And
stopped.
I come from a time when I was like the only one in my dormitory at university that had a quote unquote computer, but it really wasn't a computer. It was just a dummy terminal. And I had a hookup where the old phone that, believe it or not, guys, there used to be phones on the walls.
We're
and they
not
had
that
long cords.
old.
I
Or
love how
that
you-
young.
Yeah,
I
yes,
love
you
how
are.
you talk about it like we didn't know what
That's
basic
okay. You talk about
technology was.
millennials, or you talk about us baby boomers as if we've caused every problem in humanity, which kind
Is
of
correct.
Kinda right.
Yeah,
But-
it's factually correct.
Not every
Not
problem before
I
baby
think what's
boomers came
ca-
around.
Yeah, true. Just
No,
the ones that
we caused
happened.
them because they knew we were coming.
Well, just
true.
the ones that happened after the baby boomers happened. So, like, World War II happened, and everyone was like, "Wow, that was terrible." And then World War I was there, and everyone was like,
Right,
"That's
we're-
terrible."
hey,
World
we're,
War
we're
II
not,
is
And
the start of the
then
boomers.
boomers happened, and now we have all the
See,
problems.
I
We're
think
not here
I
to
actually
talk
think the issue
baloney
is that
on
the
baby
non-boomers
boomers.
like to blame everybody but themselves. That's the real problem.
think you've got it
And
backwards.
the boomers are a great target because we're the
Got it
largest.
backwards. Flipped.
Yeah. How do you do
we're,
that
we're
again?
not
Can you show me
here
that?
to argue about baby boomers, guys.
Oh, I would never. Well, the bull is perfect in every way. That's why he's on his podcast with us. That's why I decided to start this podcast with the bull. And as our resident guest, who is also part of the company, you should know that the bull isn't even really part of the baby boomer generation. He transcends all generations to such an ethereal degree that, there will be theological studies put on
That's
by
right.
future popes.
The bull is metaphysical.
Yeah.
As our
It's
logo
a way
would
of life.
show. I'm like
Invisible. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's invisible.
Hey,
or
we're doing
kinda,
a full redesign, full overhaul.
I like the design, man.
Well, you know what?
it's psychedelic.
Well, by the way, welcome to episode 45. I don't even know how to intro at podcasts anymore. Things have gone crazy. Baewolf and I now have an actual podcast together. You'll know
About
our real
time.
names. The podcast, Shameless
Hold
Plug.
it. No, those are other people. They just sound similar.
No, they're us. The Shameless Plug, History Out of the Box. They're actually our twins. But yeah, every
we are the evil twins.
maybe. Yeah, you'll never know. You'll never know. But yeah, Shameless Plug, History Out of the Box. We are currently on Spotify and Anchor. We eventually will be on another platform because all this takes time because they have to vet us and make sure that we're not crazy.
Which means we'll never be on the platform.
Exactly, yeah. Welcome to episode 45. If you like what you hear, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We are currently building out the Wolf and Bull brand, so there's going to be some changes in the immediate future. And what I mean by that is we're going to get better, we're going to get bigger, we're going to get stronger, we're going to get faster.
Oh my God.
Shout out Kanye
We're
West.
gonna be
Better,
bionic.
faster, stronger.
Yeah.
You guys think Kanye West? I think the Bionic Man, the $6 million man.
He sampled.
And do you realize at the time it was the whole show was called the $6 Million Man? That's what he cost to become bionic. You can
Nice.
tell how long ago that was because that's like a little toe now.
That's the
for
cost of a 3-bedroom house in
Or-
Southern California.
That's
Exactly.
true. 3-bedroom. That'd be a steal for a 3-bedroom house.
1,000 square foot house in Southern California.
Comes with your-
$6.5 million.
Comes with your own Bionic Man.
There you go.
No. It just is it's the house. It doesn't come with anything. No amenities.
No,
No amenities. You have to put the
Matter of
cabinets
fact,
in, flooring.
You got to throw up the wallboard.
Gotta do
There's
it all
nothing
yourself.
there.
So, Beowulf, episode 45. We've talked about many things on this podcast.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that we could bring up today. I'm sure that all of our listeners are probably wondering what in God's name is happening. What alternate dimension do we keep slipping into?
Yeah. We all had a bit of a shock last night and this morning when we heard what's going on. in
A
the
little leakage.
Supreme Court, the first leak in history of its kind. Get a little surprising. There's
There-
all sorts of rabbit holes we could travel down on that one. But
You think about the word leak, and you think about faucets and sinks and bathtubs, and there's there's an old gasket. Things are leaking accidentally. There's a drip, drip, drip. Oh my gosh. Well, the roof is leaking. There's a shingle that's off. That is not what's happening here. Not at all.
well,
I was wondering where you were going there.
Those are all accidental things. Those are all
yeah.
I think that's
over
so-
the years of wear and tear. These are not leaks. These are intentional. I don't even have the right word.
Well, I think that not even going into the full, Roe versus Wade conversation. I think just the fact that this is quote leaked is odd, and
How is it odd when there's actually a bill on the floor of the Senate that was already passed by the House along this subject matter that would be passed if there was enough leverage to get rid of the filibuster? How is it? How can people not even put those kinds of things together?
I think sometimes what is it? Occam's razor. The short. What is
I
it?
always say it's an
the
ox.
explanation with the
See.
least amount of jumps to the conclusion.
But
is
as a
likely the right one.
bull, I always call it ox's razor.
Aha, good one. I don't know. It's just a very interesting. It'll be very, very
Jeez. God.
exciting
Help
the next
us all.
couple of days, weeks, months as we watch this unfold
So
from the
Yeah.
comfort of our homes.
I just think it's interesting watching some of the footage and watching how some of the individuals I never would have expected switch positions on things, because there was a group there apparently last night, Atheists for Life.
Oh,
Things are getting wild. Mickey
Things are
Mouse
getting
for
wild.
Nickelodeon. I mean, Coca-Cola is partnered with Pepsi. The Patriots,
Dogs and cats are
Yeah.
living together. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Hillary and Trump have gotten proposed. I mean,
Oh
they're getting
my gosh.
married tomorrow.
You know the world is over, or that we're living in a
Oh,
total
they-
simulation if Trump and Hillary
You know
sit
what?
down together. And
the world's problems would end. It really would. We were talking about this last night, last night, I guess, yeah, about how early on in our very strange country, that the runner-up, or as everyone kindly likes to refer to them as the first loser, would be
Vice president.
Vice president. And I really, honestly, would have loved to see Hillary and Donald.
Awesome.
It would have been hilarious.
We were talking about a different universe where Hillary was Donald Trump's
the funniest
vice,
president,
and then Donald Trump was Joe Biden's vice president. What kind of
would have been the funniest shit.
What kind of hilarity would have occurred?
Who was it that was George Washington's VP?
Adams.
John Adams.
Yeah, and
then Thomas Jefferson to John Adams.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people back then that did not.
Why did we change
particularly
that?
like each other?
Why did we change that?
Because it was you putting two people in proximity that are generally opposed in their viewpoint. So the idea was to have an executive branch that was at least cohesive for a 4-year period or more.
Well, we don't do that anymore.
I think we should. We should go back to it. I want to see reality TV in the White House. I want there to be a reality TV show about the White House.
Well, we've had a reality TV star. Now we need a reality TV show.
It needs to be called These Four. How many pillars? These 4 pillars? These 6 pillars? These 8 pillars?
Oh,
How many pillars?
there
These
you
8
go.
pillars, and then
Soap
it can
opera
just
style.
Yeah, and it can be like every single beginning of every episode will be this very, very angsty, very emotional guitar.
I think
Like
we
acoustic
have-
guitar, and all of a sudden we break in through the front door, and there's Hillary and Trump, and they're dancing. They're slow dancing in the middle of the foyer.
Oh my
Hillary's
God.
face,
This
her
is a
makeup is
scary
melting
thought.
off her face. Donald Trump is eating a McDonald's cheeseburger. It is
Well,
absolute.
That's a little too close to the truth.
Someone is playing a violin, but it's an American song. What song is it? Can we guess? What's the American song that's playing? Crocodile Rock by Elton John.
Crocodile
on violin. It's going to be fantastic.
Elton John is not American, but
okay,
sure.
but he's American's.
I thought it was.
pastime.
I thought it was Dolly Parton in Kenny Rogers' Islands in the Stream.
Yes.
That
yes,
works better.
better.
No, you know what? Better
option.
yet. Top Gun. Highway to the Danger Zone, and it's on violin.
Exactly.
And
on
Donald,
violin.
Yeah,
That would be a great one on violin. Some serious.
And Donald Trump, he's dancing with Hillary, and Hillary's like half his size, and he's like, "Oh, Hillary, I'm so happy that we could put our differences aside, and you could leave all your friends to join me in the White House for 4 years.
I'm glad you've changed your hair color to orange.
I'll
as
help
well.
you with those future emails." And then Hillary's like, "Oh, Donald, I hope you don't die from heart disease."
Now Hillary, she's got a British accent.
she's the Queen of England now.
I'm waiting for Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews to come popping out of there.
Yeah, so we got vice president, we've got president, Hillary, Donald. Who's going to be the Speaker of the House? Do we know?
How about Kermit?
No.
Kermit? No, Miss Piggy.
No.
Would absolutely be the
It
best
has to be
Speaker
a
of the
real
House.
person, okay? And it's going to
What are
be
you talking about? Miss
the
Piggy's
Speaker of
real.
the House, and this is what I propose. Former presidents become the Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House, Barack Obama.
Oh, God.
That'd be absolutely fantastic. It'd be hilarious. It really would be.
Well,
He'd pop in and be like, "Yo, what are you guys doing dancing in the foyer?"
you know what I think you're describing right now? An absolute utopia.
Banger of a TV show.
A utopia.
And a TV show.
I'm trying
Yeah,
segueing every time.
we could call the TV show
America's Utopia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
or Worst Wing instead of West Wing.
No, because that's too that's campy. That's campy. You gotta be
What do you mean it's
original.
campy? What's wrong
Totally
with
original.
campy? You with the British
Disney.
accent for Hillary
Disney's
is not
wrong with
campy?
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny.
That is so funny, according to you.
Yeah.
When no
Well,
one
at
else
least
laughed.
I made the show.
Oh, I
it's
think
my
that
idea.
there are throngs out there right now roaring.
No,
they're having to
probably not.
pull over on the side of the freeway listening to this podcast.
because they're vomiting.
That's perhaps the truth too.
They're imagining
God, amazing.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton slow
You know
dancing.
what?
Imagine
That
their
would have
cheeseburger.
solved all the problems.
Imagine their
If
children.
they would have set their differences aside and got together for a little slow dancing.
And
Johnny
they-
Rivers.
they have-
Johnny Rivers, slow dance and sway into the music.
and then they have
did that.
kids.
Oh, well, I didn't want to go. I didn't really want to go that far.
By the way, Utopias. Yeah, I'm going to get that image out of my mind. So we're going to talk about utopias. Yeah, we're going to
what? All those brilliant segues. Yeah. All those brilliant segues. That was not a segue. That was an abrupt chop.
And that was, he mowed over them.
He just did. He just
and then decided to just flop it back on the table like a dead fish.
The image of Hillary and Donald Trump's children
it's locked in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it would be a utopia, would it not?
I don't think Bill would have liked that too much.
Do you want to know
what... No, Bill wouldn't exist in this scenario.
Do you want to know what a utopia is? So you can properly fit this image in your head.
A world in which everyone around me agrees with all that I believe. And
doesn't ever utopia.
Let me hear any sort of criticism or opposing opinion.
Trust me, that'll never happen.
Utopia.
Well, not mine. Utopia. I'm being facetious.
Well, a utopia is an imagined community or group that retains highly desirable or nearly faultless merits for its participants. So, yes, for its participants. So, in your perfect words, utopia, yes.
The impossible.
It'd be perfect to you.
So, there is a particular reason why I wanted, and I did not share this with you, Baewolf, because I'm a secretive canine. I'm very secretive. I hide all my toys. I hide all my food. I hide all of my sticks. I hide all the things. Because
does he have a little wolf den somewhere where he's?
I hide all my stuff.
Hides the bones from
all in the backyard.
Usually in people's closets.
All in the backyard.
Bones
chicken
from dinner.
No, little furry animal bones everywhere.
Yeah, I do. All in the backyard. All those holes are. It's not construction. Believe it or not. The lumber will never arrive. Not only because of logistics problems, but also because I'm really not doing construction. Anyway. I wanted to talk about utopias today for a very specific reason.
Oh.
Because I think people, and by people, I mean some people, and by some people, I mean a group of people, I believe they live in a specific, in their mind, in their reality, a specific utopia, and I'd love to explore that to some degree.
No, hold it. I've got to stop us right here because I didn't take notes, and I thought when you called me and told me the subject that you said Autotopia, so I was prepared entirely to get in a small little car.
Oh, the Disneyland ride.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, you were ready.
I was ready for that.
You have
and now you've thrown that away because that's Autotopia is it, man. That is the best ride.
You know, I agree. Period. I would go back to Disneyland just to ride that.
You go around that, you actually think you're driving. You're just a couple of years old.
This is the best. Wait a second.
I remember riding that ride.
Are we making a statement? Are we making a absolute statement?
Does everything have to be a statement with you, Wolf? Is everything?
Is this the best Disney ride?
No, it's not the best.
Because you said it was the best. I don't agree with that. I think it's one of the top.
Well, when I was a wee lad, which I've never been to, actually, the first time I ever went to Disney, I was 19. So I guess I can't say that was my favorite.
Same.
Driving a little Autotopia car, actually with my wonderful children.
Oh, yes.
It's one of those nostalgic memories that I'll hold dear forever, especially when the car flipped and we had to,
children were bleeding
and
screaming
all
everywhere.
Over the place. There were skid marks everywhere. There was a pile up.
See, I'm tired of going to Disney, I think, as an adult. Because every time I get excited to go, and then I go, and then halfway through the day, I'm like, I just want a beer and to go home. But
that's because your father never took you by yourself.
That's true. He didn't.
No, he didn't.
But you know
let's
who
pick
did?
That scab.
You know who did take you by yourself? Your husband.
That's true.
I did. It was raining.
And one
outside.
day we'll take our children.
No, we won't. Never.
Well,
yeah,
a utopia can also be used in the context of impossible or far-fetched. So a lot of people say that's a utopian idea, far-fetched.
So before we move on,
so it could be a noun or a verb or an adverb. Excuse me.
I would love to know,
or an adjective. Excuse me.
Your specific positions on whether you think this is something that will actually occur in the future.
A utopia?
Yes.
I think there are pockets, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. There are pockets of the world, very, very small, extremely minuscule, a dot on the paper pockets
North Sentinel Island.
maybe North Sentinel Island, where people are attempting utopian societies. However, I think in general, I don't think it's possible in this life.
I think it's like most things. It depends on your current definition of utopia might be something. You put the parameters on it, you say, once we achieve that, we're at utopia. Our society is utopian. Oh my God. But then as you grow closer and closer to that, you move the goalposts, as we do with everything.
Right. I think there's going to always be something that can be adjusted or changed. And if that's the truth, then you've never really you're not able to reach utopia.
Interesting thing to me about this particular subject is how people strive for those things anyway. They're always going for these what I would say unrealistic expectations, but it actually draws them nearer to something that a lot of people seem far-fetched or impossible.
Well, and it also, you expand upon that, it's wanting the best for your group and also for yourself, and those are often not always aligned.
They're usually diametrically opposed.
Exactly.
And that's an unusual.
So it's an unusual thing to actually carry out, and I think the people that are able to carry out some version of it, as we'll talk about in a bit, usually live very modest lives. And I think most people have wants and desires past food, shelter, and water. Right.
Without answering my question directly, you're a no.
I don't remember your question, Wolf.
Do you think it would ever happen?
No.
Okay, so we're all in agreement here.
Yeah.
I think it's also probably a highly a no, unless, of course, Elon does something crazy like buy Twitter. Then.
Even
he's never going to do that.
Even if
so don't worry
Elon
about
Musk
that.
makes some beautiful colony on Mars with the perfect set of
beautiful.
people. I mean, like
sitting on Mars
beautiful.
in a bubble full of air that's leaking out.
I know. Okay,
The
sorry.
question is if
some
the question is on Mars in the Mars bubble, if air leaks out, is it intentional or an accident?
Depends on if you think Elon is a fascist or not.
No, I meant the leak thing. I'm back to the
Yeah,
leak.
we know. Yeah, I caught
Speaking of that, I have to run out of the room for a minute.
Wow, he's back.
Wow, that was really fast. That was less than 5 seconds.
Well, it was a fake leak.
Gotcha.
Well,
That was wow. Hey, guys, for our listeners, the bull literally sat in his chair, said, "I have to leave," and then bounced up and down out of the pickup.
You know,
mic,
they would
then came back to the mic as if he had left the room.
And you know what? They wouldn't have to be listening to your description of that if we had.
Describing it was very
Video.
funny. Yeah. Well,
Which we will have.
we're in 2020.
Exactly.
We're not in 2022 yet, so.
But
well,
I'm sorry, Bale. Go right ahead. I
it's okay.
interrupt you. With
Yeah,
terrible.
go back. Come on. Move it along. Pal. Yeah, what are we doing here?
Okay.
Are we on a Are we in a
Oh my
podcast?
gosh! Did I actually hear you trying to rush Bale?
Yeah, are we
along?
sitting here on a podcast?
This is
talking about nothing.
Utopia is a term.
I see that tally mark board over in the wall over there.
Oh, she knows I'm kidding. Yeah, 100% knows I'm kidding. Yeah.
Okay, that erased one of the marks right there.
I have 0 marks.
Utopia is a term that was coined by Sir Thomas More for his
Sir
1516
Thomas
book,
More.
Utopia.
1516.
Describing a fictitious island civilization in the New World. And Utopia literally translates to no place from
Now,
ancient
did
Greek.
he mean New World as, because 1516, obviously that's after Columbus got over here. So does that mean kind of
Not
the
sure.
speculative understanding
I'll
of that
admit, I have
unknown
not read
area?
the book, so I don't know.
You didn't research the book for this?
Didn't read the book. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I figured you'd at least
But that's a good question.
browse it.
It was just a new world, Utopia. Now the opposite.
An
of
island, though? That's interesting.
An island.
Because it has to be completely segregated.
A fictional island, but yes. And it was the whole civilization that lived on the island.
Fictional island.
Could he be
Does this
talking
sound
about
like
Atlantis?
Oh, damn
He's
you.
not talking
Damn
about
you.
Atlantis. It was called Utopia.
My brain just
but he
works
could have
fast.
been. He could
Damn
have been
millennials'
inspired.
brains
could have been
work
inspired by
faster.
Atlantis. Who knows? The opposite of utopia is dystopia, which I'm sure you've heard of dystopian novels and movies, which are all the rage.
A giant
past
land mass that's connected to
20
other
years.
lands. There's rules and law. Dystopia. That's because utopia is an island, so the inverse would be.
Sure. Yes. Well, a society that is undesirable or frightening.
I thought dystopia was when you see a utopia and you're giving it shit all the time. You're dissing it. Isn't that dystopia?
Okay,
You know what-
okay,
you know- Yes, that's
Oh
one
my
way you could look at it.
Wolf is laughing at me, and I'm looking over here like, what?
I
don't know.
It's interesting.
All this
because
newfangled stuff.
we would all agree, most people would agree we don't live in a utopia. But we also describe movies and books as dystopian. So we are somewhere in the middle.
Bayo,
Right.
in the United States today, though, if you judge our civilization, our ability to sit in a wonderful place like this with the air conditioning lightly going in the background, with microphones everywhere,
We're in a cave.
We're in a cave. We're in the wolf den with a beverage in one hand and laptops on here and printed this and
an opioid addiction on the
comparative.
side.
So is Utopia a comparative thing or is it an actual destination? That's the question.
According to the book, it's an actual destination.
It's an island in the book, but it's a metaphor. Come on, books are freaking metaphors, Wolf.
Anything
you know,
can be
you
a
millennials.
metaphor.
I swear to God, sometimes I have to just lay it right out there. Sometimes I joke with you guys to try to get you to understand things, but every time I get frustrated about it, sometimes I just have to lay it out like a red carpet and say, okay, now, Wolf, walk along this carpet.
Are you sure it's millennials or it's not just him?
Or maybe it's your strategy.
I was trying to be nice about
explanation. Almost all of our listeners are millennials, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize on behalf of the Bull to just let them know we appreciate you and we think that you're valuable just the way you are.
Wow. Hold it. Get that right off your nose.
No, it's not. It's just I had a booger there. But yeah, so back to Utopias. Is it a place? Is it a thing? Is it a metaphor?
There are many interpretations of Utopia, and writers like Victor Hugo, Oscar Wilde, even Alexander Hamilton have all taken a stab at trying to better explain the concept. So I guess the best way to put it is it's a concept. It's not necessarily a real place, but it is an idea, and a lot of groups and people push forward the concept of utopian society, something to aim for. Maybe they will be off center when they throw the dart, but at least they were aiming for it.
Is that part of the ritualistic aspect around some of the agendas that are being pushed today? The idea of striving for what is a certain cadre's or a certain group's ideal situation or utopian view of the future based on many different things, some of the green initiatives and things like that.
Well, for you and I, it would at least for me, a utopia would be like sitting on like just an island of Twinkies. That would be a utopia for me.
You're like the guy, I can't remember the actor's name from Zombieland.
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, no, I am
obsessed with Twinkies.
Yeah,
in that movie.
And some people, for some people, it's an island of books. I would probably say you're in that category, Baewolf. For some people, it's a China shop. Bull is in that category. Some people, it's a bunch of baby skulls. So at the end of the day, it's a utopia is different for everyone, and I think that's why it's such a difficult topic to discuss, because there's some people that, like me, want everyone to be happy and have Twinkies and just live their lives, and then there's some people that just hate China, like the Bull. And I mean, I can agree with them.
No, I just hate the shop.
Oh, you don't like the shop? I thought it was a China thing.
No.
Not China as in like the country.
It's the shop.
China
I would wreck
like,
any shop, whether it's
you're talking about
Hungarian
teacups?
shop,
Yes,
U.S.
teacups.
shop.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Broken
we're not
teacup shop.
Yeah. Okay. We're not talking about China, the country.
Oh,
like
I thought you were
shop.
talking. Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about the CCP.
It's not China. Okay, we're not talking. Yeah, we're not doing that.
Well, Hillary would have something to say about that in your view of Utopia, because your view of Utopia is them two dancing and procreating and having children.
And at the very end, she would present him with a boudoir
book.
I think actually Donald Trump would present the boudoir shoot.
Yeah, maybe. Is that how you say it? Boudoir?
He would be down for that.
Boudoir.
Oh yeah, covered in lettuce and
he'd have a fresh tan.
Grease.
Fresh tan.
It's not a tan.
Fresh. What are you talking about? That's real tan, isn't it? Really?
Just like we're sponsored by the
Spray
Tomato
tan?
Association, he is sponsored by the Carrot Association. So
that is our stance here at the Wolf and Bull podcast, that Donald Trump is obsessed with carrots and he has eaten so many of them.
That's exactly right. I think he's eaten so many. He's ultra vitamin C, ultra keratin.
He's a healthy man.
Absolutely. I mean, how could he keep his hair in place without having the proper vitamin intake?
Gorilla Glue.
Now, there are many mythical and religious examples of Utopia.
This feels
really
good on my skull, Hillary.
It's windy out today.
Oh, yeah. Just rub it right in. Just
Can you massage it into my scalp, please?
You're not wearing gloves. Oh God.
Oh no.
And
your hand is stuck.
people.
Hurry. Get out the bleach bit.
Get out. Go get Bill. He has some liquid he could squirt on me to get it off.
As I was saying, let's roll right in from that to the mythical and religious examples of Utopia. You're disgusting.
That was such a good.
No,
happy with that
don't
one.
keep going.
That was good.
I'm gonna
No, we're done. We're
no,
done.
no.
Back to the mythical and religious examples.
In most
Religious.
cultures and religions,
Yes.
there is a myth or a memory of the past when humans lived in a very primitive, modest, and humble state of being, but they also had achieved a sort of perfect happiness and
Why the hell
fulfillment at
does
the time.
Utopia always have to be primitive?
Because
What is that?
We overcomplicate
I'm
our
walking
lives.
around in my loincloth. I must be in Utopia.
think-
Can
I
I
have
can
an
I
idea.
the
can I,
hell?
can I give an actual answer to this because I think it is a
Sure.
legitimate. I think it's a
Okay.
philosophical answer.
I know. He's not-
I don't know if I trust you right now.
I'm being. It's a philosophical answer.
Bill, get over
No,
here.
no, I'm serious. I think the reason why people, maybe not so much with, religion, I think it explains it in a way that, they utilize this utopia ideal, like be it the Garden of Eden.
It's heaven.
Well, yeah, it's like heaven or prior to humans needing something.
Garden of Eden, right?
Exactly. But when it comes to people who are not religious, I think it has to do with their hatred for those that have more than them. I think it has less to do with simplicity and more to do with the fact that they judge those that find happiness within the things in society and in the world that are seen by them as being physical.
Okay,
rather than-
That's a
let's
hot
let's
take.
go back to
That's
your
my
favorite
position.
Matt Damon movie. Okay,
when he's a farmer with the animals, the farm. What was it? Let's
I
have
bought
a
a
zoo.
zoo.
I bought
We
a
bought
zoo.
a zoo.
no, I didn't
my
realize
favorite
that
one.
was your favorite movie.
It is my
Born-
favorite
But
one.
as
No,
a
he's
whole,
lying.
I'm
Yeah,
talking
we
about
bought a zoo.
the dystopian.
It's the 5th installment of the Bourne Identity series.
You know, that's a good one too. I like that one actually. But what's the name of it? We've talked about
Dystopian
No,
movie?
it's it's the place in the sky, Elysium,
Elysium.
Elysium. Right. So that is the perfect example.
Well-
Somebody has built what their idea of utopia is in the sky,
Yeah.
where the elites get to have
but-
they have tricorders.
But the elites
I know
don't
I'm
have.
mixing my science fiction.
They
here,
have
but-
things though. That's my point. Is like someone. So
What do you mean they have?
they
Well,
have
but
stuff
that's my
and-
point. Why does this version that Bale was talking about have to do with primitiveness?
Well, from a religious standpoint, I think I answered it. But from like someone like who's like at the Supreme Court right now, they're. I think my position is correct. Is I think that they have an innate dislike for a certain segment of society that doesn't agree with them, but also they don't fit in with. So they see them as an enemy. Only primarily because it gives them some reason to rally against something, so their life is a little less boring than it already is.
That's a hot take, but
I think that's what it is. Could be wrong.
there's also usually a type of harmony between people, humanity and nature in these settings. And some people actually believe that hunter-gatherers were the original affluent society because they
Sure.
lived a very simple but very good life.
When they weren't being killed
to
by
the
predators.
the grand all the
Right.
old wise men and women of those
Yes,
groups were
of
like
course.
25.
Yeah, you remember who?
It's like,
Who was a really good hunter-gatherer? There was a whole book about him. He went back to the original time of life and like fulfilled this dream that we're talking about. It was a movie, Into the Wild. Yeah, that guy was really good at hunter-gathering, and his life existed maybe 25, 30 years until
Into
he
the
hunted.
Wild? Are you
Yeah.
talking about
He hunted-
not Ezra McCandles? Jeez, that was like
He-
someone who killed their boyfriend.
He hunted.
Wrong McCandles.
He hunted and gathered so well that he
Chris
ate
McCandles.
he ate a berry that made him diarrhea himself to death. That's exactly the harmony of humanity. I think that's a pipe dream.
I think we can very safely say that Wolf is not a fan of this type of society.
No,
Well,
I'm not.
Of a hunter-gatherer.
see, I'm actually a
live in
fan of
cave
the
society.
idea of
I don't know. I
not of actually believing in utopia, but the idea of striving for things
Sure.
outside of yourself. I
Yeah.
think that's especially within groups, because our society in general, at least in the Western world, is very self-centered for the most part.
Yeah, but I don't
Sure.
think that
This
has
is
anything
more
to
of a collective.
do. I don't think that has anything. I don't think individualism has anything to do with this view. I really
Sure
don't.
it does. You can't
I don't think
produce
so.
a utopia and just be an individualist.
Of course you can.
No, you can't, unless your utopia is designed around your own personal bubble.
Which
And
for
that's
most
it.
people,
then you're talking about a psychological aspect only.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a grander subject or an island as Sir Willy Wonka
Yeah,
or whatever
but
the hell his name
you
was.
look at-
There's your utopia
Thomas
right there.
More.
Well-
What you want to talk about that? That's who put together his own utopia.
And the founding fathers would say that they put together the greatest utopia that we currently live in.
No, they put together a framework to move us along a process to go towards something.
America as a
type of utopia. I do.
No, 100%. I don't. I disagree with you on this, Wolf.
I don't think that.
I think that they put a framework together for it, but because they weren't hunter and gatherers.
That's not. Yeah, but you're. Yeah, that's funny. But no, I truly think from a philosophical standpoint, they saw this, and there's a reason why we say, as Americans, very ignorantly, in some degree, this is the greatest country. You can't say that without it being some level of utopia, right?
Okay. Let's say I have a plate of cookies all made by 10 different people. I have 10 cookies.
Okay.
And then I have what I think is the best cookie, but I've had a better cookie before. So am I going to call that cookie the best cookie in the world?
Or but you have the best recipe. Here's what I look at it as. You had the best recipe for the best cookie that you believe is the best cookie. So you've designed this recipe in such a way that it's gonna last for generations and move further and further along a process or a road toward the best cookie ever. The best cookie ever is Utopia. So the recipe is just the design.
Yes. So my point, not to say that they were like, oh, we're here. Obviously, they understood that it's a never-ending situation. My point is saying if the very definition is highly desirable, nearly faultless merits for its participants, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to pursue happiness. That's what most humans need today in order to be happy. That's what the founding fathers thought that they need in order to be happy. Now, people can disagree with that till they're blue in the face. Say, well, what about food and what about that stuff? Okay, since the United States, we've produced infinitely more food than any other country. The world has become infinitely more wealthy because of the ideas the United States has brought to the table. Since the Enlightenment, we've become more tolerant of almost anything and everything. We don't have slavery. There are 10 countries that we listed yesterday night when we were recording Hot B that are modern countries that still have slavery that accounts in the millions. We don't have slavery here. We have the ability to speak our mind. We have the ability to not live underneath a king. We have the ability to find interests for ourselves and our families. I think we're pretty close, but not in the way that people want to
I think
dissolve it down to.
This goes back to what I said a minute ago, and whether the founding fathers believed they were in a utopia or trying to design one is kind of a tangential point. But the fact of the matter is, it's a moving target. Right. So if the founding fathers came, probably not to today, but maybe in the 1950s and looked at the United States and went, we did a great job. We created a utopia. Right. But the people in the 1950s didn't think that. They were going through all kinds of shit.
Yeah, but I don't think
and so I think that it's a moving target.
Yeah. But I think often people conflate the idea of utopia with perfection. I don't think those are the same. I don't think they're synonymous.
Well, from a Christian standpoint, since this is just, a pretty common conception of what is utopia in one of the most common religions, at least in the United States, and since it's well known, the book of Revelation in the Bible describes a utopia-like time after the defeat of Satan and sin, no more mourning or pain, etc. It's also viewed that the Garden of Eden, as you had said earlier, Bull, was a depiction of utopia before Adam and Eve actually ate from the tree of knowledge and then sent the world into sin.
Which is boring.
That brings up another subject, though.
Boring.
Because the idea of that utopia was based on, at least in part, ignorance, right? So Adam and Eve couldn't see beyond whatever God had set up for them. And when they ate from the tree of knowledge, now they could. So now it was no longer utopia.
Right.
So again, it moves the target.
It's like, I don't know what the exact saying is, but you hear often that sometimes the more educated you are, the more unhappy you can become. You've heard like people.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah. is the saying.
Well,
and
yes, and so
once you've been told something or learned something, you can never go back to what that was that you thought before because you know something additional to that. It's one of the problems I think in Wolf. You brought this up many times in past podcasts. That the information overload in the platforms and the social media and such like that, which is another form of information dispersion, is really kind of our main challenge today, or one of our main challenges is how to not just disseminate information, to absorb information and sift through it to what's important for us as individuals or groups, to gain another step along the path toward whatever our idea of personal or group utopia is.
Yeah. Maybe I just have a position on this that's a little bit different than some of the observations that other people have. Not to suggest that those observations are incorrect or wrong. I just think that comparatively to the rest of history, we are probably as close as we will ever get. And I think that the things that we're experiencing today, be it bad or good, as you were saying a second ago, because it's a moving target is purely and mainly built up to availability bias. I mean, it's what we perceive in our existence at the time is what we think to be the worst possible thing up until something else comes up that's more, to use the proper grammar, more worser than than the thing prior. So when it comes to, you know, the ability and the freedoms that we currently have in this country, I know people think this sounds like I'm some sort of crazy nationalist. I'm really not. And I have my criticisms, but I don't think utopia or the idea of it, in order for it to actually become a possibility, it should even reasonably be synonymous with perfection. Because that's, you want to talk about utopia, you have to create an atmosphere for most people with all of our imperfections to operate at a high degree of success. There's a lot of places that don't have that.
And that's why it's not achievable.
Well, yeah, but it's not achievable by that definition of synonymous with perfection.
So maybe what we really need to do here for 2 minutes is try to decide what our definition of utopia for this conversation really is, because I look at it as some form of I hate to use the word perfection, but I'm going to have to for the sake of this because I can't think of a better word, something above and beyond our current level of subsistence, or existence, not subsistence. That we're looking to strive for something a little bit more perfect, a little bit more not plausible, but a little bit better for our entire surroundings, just us and the groups we're with.
Sure, but I think the danger there is it's a never-ending trap. That's a.
It is.
But here's the thing: the reason why I don't take that position is because in order for something to become a reality, you have to have a realistic expectation. And if you want to have utopia be synonymous with perfection, then how you make utopia is you remove the imperfect. Remove the imperfect variable out of the algorithm, the imperfect variable being humans. Remove them, and then you're in utopia. That's the whole argument, is if you create a utopia that is based around humanity, you have to allow for some sort of outlier. And when AI comes to the point of singularity, I think AI will be able to do that if it doesn't kill us.
But if you get to utopia, which your argument says in some way, shape, or another we are, depending on your definition,
sure,
then what's the next step?
Because
utopia is kind of defined as the ultimate.
Yeah, so I don't think...
So you have to change the ultimate.
So yes, but again, I don't think that there is always a next step with things.
There always
utopia,
is. There is with everything. What is there not a next step with? Anything.
So
smaller, bigger, anything.
I understand your position, but my whole point is when it comes to the definition of utopia, it doesn't allow for the next step. The definition in and of itself does not say it is here up until we find something better. That is the ultimate. So my point in saying this is if you recognize this as being as good as it's ever going to get, then you can take that perception and say, okay, we're in a really good point right now. We can change slightly and adapt to things, but the Jetsons, where there's not going to ever be any bad guys and there's not going to ever be any death and there's not going to be ever any poverty or anything, that's not possible. So my whole point with the utopia definition is if we can look at it from a perspective of the greatest benefit for the most amount of people in a reasonable amount of time associated with the allotted resources that we currently have or can make, that's more reasonable.
So
does that make sense?
Reasonable topia is what you're talking about, not utopia.
That's literally anything. I mean,
that's my point. It's almost, I'm listening to you talk, and you've got sort of both countervailing positions. Mm-hmm. You're basically saying this is not an achievable thing, so we need to bring it into a realm of achievability, which is interesting, but it belies the current definition of utopia, which is something achieved greater than we currently are.
Yeah, but then
in these aspects.
But the irony within that is it's not to the people who believe that utopia is achievable, because they all believe we can go back to hand cloths and getting food off of trees.
What I'm saying is utopia is not achievable.
No,
I've said that. You've said that. We all said that.
I know, and I'm not saying that I believe that it is an attainable thing based off the definitional perspective of it. I'm saying if we shift that as a race, then we can look at it reasonably. But up until that point, it's just a pipe dream. And I think
you are way more logical than I give you credit for.
Yeah,
because you're trying to be very reasonable and measured about this.
Yeah,
and I think people that typically strive for utopia are not.
No,
they have a reason, but if you draw out the subject a little further and look at where it leads, it always leads to the understanding that you can't achieve that, and that the idea is to strive for it, not to achieve it. So you have to define something. In religion, it's heaven or the Garden of Eden or whatever. In this, we define this thing that's unattainable, that's out there, this island out there that we can never reach completely because we're striving for quote unquote utopia.
Well, I've always been confused as to why people have always determined it to be a place. And maybe that's for a definite...
It's not. I mean, the literal definition, right?
Well, yeah,
Bayo is no place. Correct?
I know what that
no
is, but for
place.
some people, for an understanding perspective, I think that they relate it to a place. Like, this is somewhere we need to get. When in reality, just with anything, if you take into account what your baseline of availability of whatever you're doing, so if you're trying to get good at something, like if you're trying to get good at a skill, you take into account your baseline skill, right? And what you're required of like what's required of you to become a proficient at that skill, and then what's required of you to become a master of that skill. You take into account those things. When it comes to utopia, we can take into account what most people need in order for them to feel some level of comfort, safety, health, wellness, myriad of different things. And I think sometimes, as you were saying a second ago, the idea is unreasonable. People say, well, yeah, there's never going to be any death, and there's never going to be any food, and there's never going to be any problems, and like, oh, we won't have to work, and everyone's going to be creative, and everyone will be able to sell music and paint. And that's unreasonable.
So your argument, it sounds to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the idea is to be satiated, is to be comfortable within the context of your definition of I am satisfied and satiated.
No, I wouldn't say satisfied. I would say that the baseline needs in order to provide for a jumping off point, from my perspective, of most people in life to have what others currently don't in other countries. So taking America as an example.
Comparative.
Yeah. The baseline measurements have to be met. Doesn't mean the person has to be happy. Doesn't mean that they have to be content. It means that, okay, I have a roof over my house. I have, some food in my belly. I have an opportunity to work for something and make something better of myself. I think that view of utopia is pretty damn close.
I think that view of reasonable utopia, as I said earlier, is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think it's understandable. And I think it's a position that we should actually... I think being completely satisfied can be problematic if you as a person or you as a part of a group or a civilization wants to move forward. But if you don't want to, if you come to a place where you're, as I said earlier, satiated, that's your happy place, right? But think about sports for just a second to put it on a kind of a base level. Why are there records? Why is in track and field you have to run faster, throw something further? Why is there in basketball scoring records and rebounds records? Why are there in football? Is there the GOAT? And why is, all these different kinds of things that go on. The reason records are there is because somebody's always striving to be the best at something. Now, if we pull back on that and talk about society as a whole or a group, the whole idea of bringing something to utopia is an unachievable, unattainable definition of something. It's a no place. That's why I like that definition so much. It's no place. You can't ever get there.
Yeah, but that's based around. I guess the best thing to from my perspective, so I can explain this properly. I don't think people utilize that definition in a proper context. I think that they utilize utopia much like people utilize the terms equality and equity. They don't really understand what they mean. They use them interchangeably. They make them conflated with a myriad of other things, and their argument becomes ridiculous. Like, look, a utopia for me is a place where I don't have to worry about getting eaten by an animal. I can live a reasonably long life. I can find a mate. I can find a family. I can find a home to live. I can find opportunity for myself and my future lineage. That seems pretty utopia-like because I don't have to be concerned with stuff that otherwise 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago would have killed me.
Okay, when you're in that place, let's say this very second, and you could make the argument that you're right there now. You could make for the most part for those
pretty close
set of key indicators.
Yeah,
I'm in utopia now. Okay, now once you're there, and you look around yourself, and your life goes on, and you have any inkling to make any one of those aspects better, then suddenly you're not in utopia anymore. No, and that's my argument. I agree with you that it's conflated. I totally agree with you that it's conflated with a lot of other things.
Like, here's the thing is I don't think that the measurement for utopia, as I've said, well, Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess that could be looked at it that way, but I still think that there's a baseline for anything, right? That's like saying, if you go to the doctor, baseline for health is, you've got a decent level of blood pressure, you're alive, you're not perfect, but you're breathing, your heart works well, you don't have some sort of disease. If you have the sniffles, they're not going to say you're sick and may die. They'll say, well, you've got something that you need to work on. So I think that's the same thing that people need to do when it comes to Utopia, or really anything at all, not necessarily just Utopia, but when it comes to progressivism in general. The danger of progressivism is just progressiveness for the sake of being progressive. And if there's no synonymous understanding within that group of, well, being progressive for the sake of progressive leads to pointlessness, if they don't understand that, then they're never going to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So there needs to be a reasonable level of understanding, a reasonable goal setting, reasonable perspective of where they currently are in relation to where they were before.
And to your point, if there's certain people that believe the progressivism and their goaling and their striving toward their definition of utopia is not adhered to and cheered, and cheered on by others because those others don't want the same things, then it becomes this big yelling match.
It'll cannibalize itself.
And you watch that today in all kinds of things.
Well, and that's why ultimately I think a lot of, just to bring up the discussion about what we talked about a second, or brought up briefly, I think that's why this whole position on what's going on with Roe v. Wade is eventually going to cannibalize itself, whether it stays the same or it doesn't. These people don't have an understanding of, I think they have a hard time with relativism. I think that they struggle when it comes to baseline measurements of where they were 60 years ago because they weren't alive back then, and where they currently are today and where they'll be in the future. And I think that there's a very improper aspect on both ends of the spectrum where people have a hard time with being able to effectively define where they should be from a belief perspective. The tolerance level in this country is not to the degree that people think that it is in the doomsayer crowd. It's really not. They think that we are this Handmaiden's Tale, fucking ridiculous Django Unchained situation. And there's no evidence to support any of that. Now, there's problems.
But it's interesting how we display ourselves with that to the rest of the world.
Well,
we display ourselves.
By we mean the people in the group of Utopia who don't have any level of reasonableness.
This is my point. If you're not agreeing with that crowd, then you're against that crowd. Even if you say, to your point earlier, well, I've got the 10 things I wanted in life are kind of right here. I don't need this noise. I'm in my Utopia. Oh, no, you're not.
Baewolf
you don't agree with mine.
She's given up on any
she
responses.
She's
sleeping.
No, she's well, I think the point of Utopia in general, though, is whether you agree with the kind of premises we're talking about, there are people, entities, groups throughout history that have strived toward what they've defined. They've gotten a group of people together and say, we want this to happen. And I know you've got certain examples of that, don't you, Bael?
Well, there's a lot of Western countries in particular that have made attempts at utopian communities, and very well and alive today. There are, some would describe it as a wave. It's been throughout history, of course, but for a trend purpose, they usually focus these days on environmentalism, feminism. These are strong driving factors in these experimental communities. And one of the, well, there's a couple that we're talking about, but one of the ones that is close to home for us is located about 70 miles north in the desert of Arizona. It was launched in 1970. It's still under construction today. It's the Arco Santee.
Wait. Okay.
Let me get this straight. I heard something happen there.
That was my belly. Yeah, let me get this straight.
No. I heard your brain click during
So we're talking about Utopia. Mm-hmm. Beautiful places. And these individuals who started in 1970, that was a long fucking time ago.
Not really.
Relative to me, yes. Relative to most of the people alive today, yes. And they're not done? And they built it in Arizona?
Well, let me expound upon that, because there's more to this than just they're not done. All right.
That seems like they're not done.
Well, it's home to about 50 to 100 people at a time throughout all this time, and they have a goal of 5,000.
since 1970.
Yes, it is an experimental town that focuses around architecture. That's why it's not done, quote
It's
unquote.
taken them 50.
By the way, if you've seen
something
the pictures
years.
of this place, it's kind of beautiful in a lot of.
It
I
is.
mean, it's really very
It's
interesting.
north of Phoenix. It's in a sort of a green area. It's in the mountains, I think.
It's up by Montezuma's
Cordes
Castle,
Lakes.
I think.
Cordis Lakes.
It-
Tens of thousands of tourists visit every year. They're public tours. They're open on pretty much every single day except major holidays.
So why are there only 50 people?
Well, it's a project funded by the Cosanti Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization. And it focuses on what they call arcology. It's the fusion of architecture and ecology. Arcosanti is like an architect's studio almost.
So
they
it's-
work on these unique buildings, and they focus on a sustainable architecture in a vertically dense building that prioritizes living and workspace with the surrounding nature and environment, sort of like an urban / nature type architecture.
Can I make a guess here? Can I make a guess? They will reach 5,000 people in the year 3,140 at the rate that they're going.
Well, I think that once they've done some architecture the way they want to, there's plenty of people that want to do this kind of stuff.
Why aren't they
Plenty.
living there then?
Well, that I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. I
yeah,
would love to look into it more.
45
And I think we're
out
going to
of
have to visit,
5,000?
and we'll be able to find out.
No, I'm
But
happy.
it could be that the infrastructure doesn't sustain those type of people, and you know, you have. I mean, it sounds like to me like it would be an artist's getaway right now.
Okay, so it's not
or
a
a
utopia.
destination
It's a
for
club.
It's Utopia for 50 people right now.
a bunch of wealthy
But
individuals,
you know,
right?
I got to tell you a couple things. There was an author, and I hope I get the right one. I think it was Philip Joseph Farmer, and he's the same one that wrote Riverworld. If you look up that sometimes, audience, and check that out, because it's very interesting about. Well, I won't get into Riverworld right now, but I think it was him that wrote this series about this kind of utopian society that used nature as its infrastructure for civilization. In other words, there weren't buildings. The buildings were living. They were growing out of trees and around rock formations and all this kind of
That
stuff.
sounds terrible.
The books were fantastic.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Well, of course, I was a kid reading them, so I don't really know.
Waking
Because
up
I
with-
used to think Edgar Rice Burroughs' Mars books were fantastic. and
Waking
they
up
were
with
written
fleas
like-
on my body and bug bites, and having to fight off snakes because we don't have walls.
Well, hold it.
We have trees.
Hold it. Hunter-gatherers were utopian.
Oh, I bet they were. Yeah,
Yeah,
why-
that's why they picked off all the.
that's why so many of them exist today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Arcosanti, their buildings they're very beautiful, but I was looking at pictures of them. They kind of remind me of Star Wars Land
Yeah. Yeah.
at Disneyland
It looks like Tatooine.
or Disney World. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm sorry. I'm still stuck. Who's their forecaster? Who's their marketing
Is there
guy?
a city planner?
Yeah, who is what?
Well, remember they're founded or sort of organized by the Cosanti Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And they actually run workshops, and they teach the founder. His name's Paolo Solori. They teach his ideas.
Oh,
This
And-
is
So it's a
cult.
This is like
It's a
that.
cult.
This is like that thing off the 8
So,
freeway.
yeah, so
that
this
we
is
go
not
by.
this isn't a
center
utopia.
of the world or
Yeah,
whatever.
So this isn't a utopia. This is a cult. That's what this is.
They have
Well,
a workshop, and it includes a
kinda
seminar
the
week.
Same a lot. If
They
you
shouldn't be because there's no religious mention
his
in the
concept
definition.
on-
cults are only cults until they become big enough
His
not to be cults anymore.
That's not
concepts
true.
On
It's absolutely true.
Definition, no,
arcology
it's not.
design.
The Wolf and Bull cult.
I try speaking over you guys sometimes.
I'm
Yo,
sorry.
just
Go
put it
ahead,
away,
Bael.
pal.
No,
They say
she's
this is no room for
no,
attitude.
She can
We're
cut in
talking-
very easily.
we're
by
talking
the way.
about
She's
stuff.
got her voice slices through.
Yeah, you're like a slice of heaven shining down on hell.
Well, if you want to chill out, Wolf, you can go to a lecture for a week or two at Arcosanti.
Arcosanti, yeah, I will.
And you can spend
I will.
some weeks working there on the project site.
What are your ideas about federalism?
No.
Okay.
What I was trying to say was that they teach his ideas on arcology specifically and design. So it's based on the architecture of a communal space.
That's interesting.
Okay,
There's-
so again, though, why aren't they at 5,000 people?
Well, as of 2012, more than 7,000 participants had aided in the construction through the participation of those 5-week programs. Those
and
workshops.
all but 50,
Wait
and
a
all but
second.
all but 50 of them said, "I ain't staying there."
Wait.
this sounds like an MLM,
I don't
an
think so.
architecture-based MLM. We're going to have people come in. We're going to teach you how to build our buildings for us. And then you can fucking leave.
If it wasn't, we know that it's not. You know why? Because I looked at the pictures and none of those things look like pyramids to me.
My point just saying, I get to go to speak with whatever his name is for 6 weeks and build his buildings for him without zero pay.
You got to remember, Arizona.
Oh, you pay them. Wow.
You got to remember, Arizona is very eclectic along these lines.
Remind me, I never would have guessed.
Have you guys read about the Rodin crater? Rodin crater?
No.
The artist that spent the last 42 years, James Turnbull, something like that.
Turnbull?
Up in the Painted Desert, he's been creating this light visual art piece that's an entire structure. It's huge.
No.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Like Burning Man style?
Yes.
Like this giant crater that has these holes in this cathedral-like usage of the real light that comes through and reflect. It's a masterpiece artwork. But the reason I bring it up is because these kinds of things, artistic design, architectural design, arcology, all this kind of stuff, this artist I'm talking about, all these kinds of things strive for the same thing, to have some kind of meaning outside themselves. That's what we're talking about here with Utopia.
Yeah, and it's it's only a 6-week program in which you build my buildings for me, and you pay me so I can teach you how to build buildings for me. And then 6 weeks, you go away, I stay, I have 7 new buildings. You never come back. I reap the benefits. And this is all for the higher purpose of me having a larger wallet.
Okay, we're talking about any church at this point. Right?
Whoa.
I mean, aren't we?
Whoa.
There's no whoa about that.
Careful.
You don't even sound like a
Why
wolf when you say whoa. You got to go howl.
Gregory's going to pop right into the freaking door. He's going to kick the door down. There's going to be he's going to burst through here with his invisible supercar. You better watch out.
I'm not against any of that. I'm saying there's a purpose around the servant leadership kind of.
If you believe you're helping the world by giving them something that they need, theft?
If you believe you're moving toward utopia, or you're moving toward acts of service that is going to, in some religions, gain you entrance to heaven, in other religions just get you to a
human
point
souls.
This workshop is worth what people will pay for it. If people want to go pay to go work in the desert on a building, go for it.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. Go ahead, do it. All the best. I just think it's very funny.
Well,
Utopia of 45.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I think they're just clowns for doing it.
People still at 45.
Well, there's another one here in Queensland, Australia, actually. Crystal Waters Permaculture Village. It was launched in 1987. Permaculture.
Yeah.
In 1987, and is 640 acres of bushland on the Mary River in Queensland. It's home to about 240 people, plus a lot of wildlife, which includes some animals like bearded dragons and bandicoots, but they will not allow domesticated dogs or cats.
Wait a second.
Because the bandicoot's illegal.
A bandicoot's a real thing. Crash Bandicoot is a real animal.
Apparently,
you didn't know that?
Australian.
What the actual shit?
They live right next to pangolins.
I had no idea.
Bandicoot.
I had no idea he was a real thing.
Well,
I thought that was just
Australia has the wildest names and coolest animals ever.
Yeah.
They really do.
Do all of the people, all 240 of them, do they all have perms?
No.
So those 240
missing opportunities.
Those 240 used to live in Arizona in the whatever the hell that place was called.
Yeah.
And they moved out of there to help build these buildings.
I bet they did. Yeah. They're more successful for some reason.
Cooler there, I think. They focus on sustaining agriculture and keeping the land around them nice and tidy.
So they're farmers.
Safe. Yeah, they do have a coffee shop and a bakery and group activities open to the public. So yoga, martial arts,
everything's got to have a Starbucks, damn it.
They've got a merch shop so you can go in and.
You know what? I wonder if they have good coffee.
I wonder too.
I guess they have real pressed
French
coffee.
press their coffee.
Yeah, I bet they do.
You know what gets me? You know what gets me? What bothers me so much about all this is it's all a scam. All of it's a scam.
I got to set an aside for just a second. Just a little aside. Maybe get your input on this. I love coffee.
Me
I'm
too.
not a
In
coffee
fact,
connoisseur.
Depends on what type of
I
coffee.
think
I'm not a
having
coffee connoisseur, but
headache.
I've had good coffee and bad coffee, and there's something about just sitting and relaxing and taking a little sip of coffee.
Oh, same. I'm a coffee snob, 100%.
Oh, you don't say.
Oh, I am.
I never would have guessed.
One thing I've been complaining about, sidetrack. One thing I've been complaining about since we moved is I have not found a decent coffee shop yet.
Well, what
It's
did you
driving me
say?
nuts.
What did you use the phrase that you actually, the very pretentious phrase that you used while we were talking about the types of coffie? You going to use that?
Right.
Or
The
am I-
only coffee shops around here. Number one, very little Starbucks, which is interesting. But number two, they're all what do I call them? I don't even
I
remember what
can't.
I said.
I'm not
sugar
gonna say-
shops.
Oh, I'm
They're
not
sugar
gonna say-
shops
Yeah,
is
I'm
what
not
they
going
are.
to say exactly.
Most of those
Sugar
places,
shops,
yeah.
They're it's mostly like I go to the window or I walk up to the counter and they're like, what would you like? And I look and it's just a bunch of names that don't describe the coffee. It's just
energy
like
drink or a shake.
Buttercup creamsicle. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I have an iced Americano?
You know, you guys are gonna have to invest in one of those machines like we used to have. 'Cause
Oh.
That was a damn good cup
Well,
You know
of
what?
coffee.
We've
Those are
got
really good.
Back to
4 coffee machines.
okay. Well, before we let our listeners know how
That would be
absolutely-
Utopia.
Yeah.
Perfect coffee.
Yeah. So again, back to my point a second ago before we started talking about how many coffee machines we have.
Yes,
4.
you can visit these places. Majority of them.
I'm sure, but my point is, I want to live in Utopia. Am I the only person, if I wanted to live in Utopia, that wouldn't want to be around anyone else? Am I the only person?
Because Utopia is a collection.
No, I'm not saying that there
Unless
can't be
you-
a collective of my group. I'm just saying I don't want people to show up like it's a fucking carnival. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, we've got a welcome
Gotta
to
make money somehow.
Which
welcome
leads
to
you to the idea.
permaculture.
Well, it leads you to the idea that this is something more than that. It's a tourist attraction.
It's a scam. It's a
Well,
scam.
it doesn't necessarily mean
No,
that.
I think
Why
it's
does
a-
everything have to be a
It's
scam?
I'm not saying everything
Hey,
has to be a scam.
You got to
It's
start
a business.
believing
It's a
in
scam.
people.
It's
Believe
also
in
a way
people.
to invite other people into your doors so you can have a bigger
Really?
group.
That's
How
right.
hard do you think it is to get involved in permaculture? Do you think you just show up and stay? Or
Well,
you
it
think you have
I
to
think
fill
yes,
out?
you could.
It's just like these churches.
You could
Some of
stay
them are narrow focused. Some
as
of
long
them
as you
throw their doors
contribute.
open.
The numbers fluctuate too. People come and go.
Well, I definitely think we should start one of these in the middle of the desert. And I
Well,
think
there's
Wolf and
already
Bull.
one.
We should-
70 miles away.
Well, yeah, we're going to start a different one. It's going to be a competing one. And we should have a coffee shop. We should have a merch shop. We should have a arcade. We should also have a church, but it should be tongue in cheek.
I think
that the
they
actual
have-
church is the community.
They have
not
one
the
of those.
church.
It's called Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
In 1998,
Uh-oh.
the UN database actually recognized this group as having one of the world's best practices, with their sustainable agriculture.
Well, that's the
and
UN.
stuff.
They're really good at doing nothing.
Useless nations.
Yeah.
Well, let's move along.
Wow, did I say that out loud?
Useless nincompoops. You got it
Nincompoops.
backwards. Yeah, it's not a nation.
The third one I want to talk about is actually Zeg. I think that's how it's
Oh,
pronounced.
Zeg.
Zegg. It's located in
gotta-
Belzig, Germany.
You got to scream it. Vag!
Zag.
Not gonna try. Launched in 1991, 37 acres of land include a ecological sewage plant,
Okay.
organic vegetable garden, meditation room, artist studio, and heating system. So they're pretty self-sustainable. It is home to 100 people.
These utopias are all the same thing.
They are all the same.
100
They're the same.
people.
How can we
17 of which are
take
youth.
all our sewage and drink it again?
Yeah.
It's probably going into their
So
organic vegetable garden.
there's a self-proclaimed goal I see here of exploring the foundations for a non-violent way of living. My
Yes.
question being, is that in relation to animals that we believe or perceive to have feelings and emotions, or are we including all plant life and anything?
I was going to say, are these
at
all
all.
vegans, vegetarians, or
Well, but if plants feel, which there's evidence to suggest that they
so
can,
they just
then,
live off air?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Well-
what about microbes?
Well, yeah, you step on those.
about bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
What are those little, like,
it's like SpongeBob and Plankton.
what are those little,
Plankton
like,
was always on the bottom.
Those
of
little
somebody's ship.
bears, the little bears, what are they called? The little...
Oh, yeah, the ones that can live through anything, including
What are
astrroids.
they called?
Cockroaches?
No,
It's a
hyper
cockroach.
bears.
No,
I
it's
know what you're
like a
talking about. Something bears.
Something bear.
Frozen crypto
Yeah,
bears.
they're referred to as water bears.
Water, yeah.
But
That's
there's
what
a
it is.
term.
Water
It's
bear.
a tardigrade.
No, I
Thank
see
you.
What about the
you're talking
tardigrades?
about.
Tardigrade.
Yeah, we're a scientific mind over here.
Sure. Well, this group is notable because it encourages polyamory.
Oh, cool. Well, there's 15 kids that are around a bunch of polyamorous individuals.
Well,
I'm sure that is
they,
great.
They the prevailing idea in the community is free love. But some are in open relationships. Some are monogamous.
We're back in the 1960s.
Not everyone in there. It's not like just one giant orgy or anything like
Joseph's,
that.
how do you know?
Of course it is.
How do you know?
It has to be.
What are the rules?
I read on the internet that it wasn't.
Why would they say that it is?
Oh, the internet knows.
Yo, hey guys.
Some are monogamous.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna create a website and we're gonna write that we openly have orgies everywhere while there's kids all over the place. That'll make people show up.
I remember we were driving, we were on a road trip, and we were listening to, it was like podcasts or something, like YouTube podcasts, and you know how it does the commercial on its own. We were listening to one, and it was talking about the polyamory, and like it was just a podcast about what it is, and like
it was a YouTube show.
Yeah, and then the next thing I know, the commercial comes on, and it is someone who is advocating for polyamory, like inviting to her workshop to explain why it's
strangely enough advertised by Trojan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's weird.
KY.
Yeah,
but it's funny because I just looked up in German, Zeg means happy ending. So there you go.
Does it really? No, you liar.
You bought that?
No.
Yeah,
Jawohl.
I can't say the joke I was going to say. I'm not going to say
Well,
that.
This group, again, they offer seminars and courses to the public.
They offer what? They offer what?
Seminars.
I'm sorry, what?
So we have a banana, and this is how you appropriately use any sort of protection. You take the thing and you throw it in the trash.
They hold festivals. They hold discos, which was notable.
I bet they do.
And their workshops, the most members actually work in the seminar business. Everything from catering to teaching to running the events from the logistics side.
Oh my gosh.
So
this is quite the place in Belzig.
Wow.
Yeah. So you've got...
Sounds wonderful.
In what I would view as probably a little mini company
it's
without
not
any
Utopia.
W-2s.
It's not Utopia unless they have a beer garden. If they have that.
It depends on what type of beer
it's
you're
just one
talking
of those
about.
things.
It's Germany, for God's sakes.
You know how some companies, they'll we're one big family.
All companies, all of them.
It's like
we all are genetically related.
You're a hop, skip, and a jump away from a cult or a utopian society.
Again, I don't think those things have to be synonymous. Maybe my brain's just broken.
They don't. It's just
you guys are.
You can see where the line gets blurred.
Well, you can.
Can you?
We ought to look into this sometimes. But people have purchased as groups their own. I was going to say aircraft carriers, but that's not correct. Old barges and these big, huge
buses.
Boats. I'm talking about boats where they can bring in a collection of a bunch of people and start their own
orgy.
Well, that they for sure do. I mean, but they go into international waters and they claim themselves as their own nation on these giant ships.
Yeah, guys.
You have heard of that, right? Self-sustaining giant ships. That's a form of their utopia.
This is the ocean-based version of Zeg. We're a non-violent community that creates circumstances among the different interpersonal relationships of individuals to cultivate a violent community. We also believe in free love, but also no love, because in order for love to exist there have to be some parameters, otherwise it's just baseline beast level just desire, and but we believe in that, and that definitely has never ever started any wars or problems historically, where two individuals fight over one person and end up murdering the other person to go on with the other individual. That's never happened, honestly. I don't understand. And this is the thing. I get the point. I get the desire. Everyone wants to be safe. Everyone wants to be comfortable. But I really think that some of these people truly don't understand human nature, and they don't take it into account. And these and I'm not to say that I'm a genius on it. I'm not at all. I'm just saying that they create these communes of people that, in Zeg's instance, are porking each other every other second, which I don't care. To each his own. It's just I feel like that's not really a utopia. That's something else.
Well,
they're all power structures.
Structures, yeah.
If we want to dig into it someday, let's open up the basket and look at L. Ron Hubbard and his group.
Do we think that all these societies are ruled, as a group?
No.
There's just everyone has exact the same, or is there a leader?
There's always a leader.
So then
It's a cult. It's a cult.
Maybe.
It's a cult.
Maybe.
Well, I'm living in my own house under the fist of capitalism, and I'm just gonna deal with it, I guess.
The fist of capitalism.
Yeah.
I love it. The fist of capitalism.
Yeah, not the
Is
thumb.
that the power
fist?
fist, or is that the punch in the face fist?
Don't associate that fist, I guess, with
What did
capitalism.
I do? I did the wrong thing,
That's
did
the
I?
socialist fist,
Which
What is-
also, ironically...
Which way is the socialist?
Marxist.
Well, what is a
fist.
peace sign now? I heard peace sign means something different.
That's-
I don't know what it means anything
We know.
anymore.
It's
Yeah.
all right. You're
You're-
just such a boomer.
Yeah, you're just booming your way through society. Just
So what if you go,
Well,
yo,
that's-
you know
that's
what?
gang- It's
called
They're all
cultural
gang things?
that's gang
appropriation.
culture appropriation. Yeah, we don't do that here on the Wolf and Bull podcast.
Can he actually move or make any gestures
You're
No.
whatsoever?
such
No.
a dad.
Yeah, you were the most dad.
Go put your New Balance shoes
Yeah, so
on.
go-
tuck your shirt in
yeah,
and mow
with
the
a belt.
lawn.
Wear a belt.
At 6
you
a.m.
know,
Shorts,
I
you
look
got cargo
back at
pants
I
on.
look at back at some of the pictures and I go, why did I tuck my shirt in all the time? Like
Because you were a
Because
dad.
It's
no,
just-
you
that
tuck
was
your
the
shirt
thing.
in because it's versatile and effective. You can do so many things.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can run faster. You won't get caught on doorknobs.
You know what you don't
Yeah.
see dads doing? Wear suits. They don't wear suits when they're running because you can't
You know,
jump over
I
fences
saw
in a
I saw
suit.
something. I don't remember where or what news publication, but it was talking. or
Zeg
maybe-
International.
No, maybe it was like on an Instagram story or something. I don't remember, but they were talking about like a poll. Do suits signify upper class or lower class today? And the majority of people said lower class. If you have to
What?
wear a suit to work,
Oh yeah,
it means you have a lower class job.
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Isn't that
I-
crazy?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, people also think up is down, and
They were just talking about like, when you have like a finance or tech bro job, you're wearing the big joke is, you wear a Patagonia vest or whatever.
You know, the funny thing about tech jobs is if it's just like everything else that has ever occurred, things start out very broad. And if you're very good at, coding or this or that, you're going to get high levels of pay. You're going to get a lot of jobs. You're going to get autonomy. You can live anywhere in the country and do your thing, through the internet and all that kind of stuff. But as things get refined more and more, I remember the days where I had to learn DOS. Do you even know what DOS is? It's not a German word.
Computer language.
It wasn't the language. It was the general computer code that you would put in to just bring up anything on a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, those things completely went away, and nobody knows DOS anymore except a very few people, because people wrote programs to encapsulate certain
make it
things.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things continue to do that. Think about the websites that you could put together today. Any one of us, including this poor old boomer, could do it.
You're not a poor old boomer. We're just giving
Hey, you're a young, wealthy boomer.
I resemble that remark. I'll just leave it.
you crap. You're just like, we'll let that one be.
Yeah, but my whole point is those things get condensed, and suddenly people that thought they were in the right category of learning and everything are not.
Yeah.
And it changes over time, and it's kind of our point on this whole subject matter today. I go back to this so often. We talk about all these different subjects, and it comes down to psychology over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. We as human beings have this desire to both be satisfied and to strive. And it fights each other all the time. It really does.
Well, I just can't wait for all of artificial intelligence to take over every single job except OnlyFans. And then everyone has an OnlyFans, and that's the only way anyone makes any currency.
I think-
it's
I
just
think that
everyone has an OnlyFans.
I think
and then the different compartmentalizations of categories represent the different industries of OnlyFans. And OnlyFans becomes the industry, and then the sub-industries are where people find themselves working. Oh, you want to see someone do some carpentry? Sign up for their OnlyFans.
Oh my God. I think the world would be a much better place if Hillary
And
Donald.
and the Donald.
they would just, that would be utopian.
Yeah,
It would just throw everything else out.
we could get what's his name who
I think Joe Biden officiates.
he has to be
He'd
like
be asleep the whole time.
yeah, he has to be like the antagonist. So he's got to be the
Oh
antagonist.
no, love
too.
triangle.
Oh my. Oh
But
yeah.
who's
had
vying
to-
for who?
You had to
Trump
pour-
is vying for Biden.
Oh,
The triangle is.
Oh, my God.
Well, and here's the thing: we get like Michael Bay to film this, so like every scene has like a flash of light and blinds the viewer, and it just looks really cool and everything. Explosions in the background.
And each of those turn into a transformer of some
Yeah.
kind? Okay. That works for me.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Beautiful image.
Hey everyone, this is the Wolf speaking, wrapping up yet another episode of the Wolf and Bolt podcast. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we can't wait for you to hear our next episode. If you like what you heard, tell your friends and family, your neighbors, the local bartender, your doctor, your boss, and hell, you can even tell us. By leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, you can directly help build the Wolf and Bull cult. The Wolf and Bull family. We can be found on most major podcasting platforms and social media. So what are you waiting for? Scoot on out of here and enjoy your day. But you should probably leave us a review first. But make sure to enjoy your day. But don't forget to leave us a review. Okay, bye.